of quiet stars, quiet chords from my guitar, floating on the silence that surrounds us. Quiet thoughts and quiet dreams, quiet walks by quiet streams, and a window that looks out on Corcovado. Oh, how lovely.
Quero a vida sempre assim, com você perto de mim, até o apagar da velha chama. E eu que era triste, descrente desse mundo, ao encontrar você eu conheci o que é felicidade, meu amor.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. This panel is called Behind the Curtain. We're here with Firecat Rich or Rochelle Schul. Oops, I don't know how to say your last name. I'm sorry. Um, so this panel is about supporting creatives by doing jobs you've never heard about. Rich has operated under the artist handle Firecat Rich for over 20 years. By day, she works as a freelance illustrator and creative support. By night, she writes and illustrates everything from webcomics, short stories, and novels. While she thinks of herself more as a citizen of the internet, she is an American artist that moved to Canada in 2012 and has enjoyed the hospitality of the Great White North ever since. All right, take it away, Rich.
Hi, everybody. Let me share my screen. There we go. So I hope you're all here for Behind the Curtain, supporting creatives by doing jobs you've never heard about. Woo! So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Rochelle Schuldice. I've operated under the name Firecat Rich, just like Leaf said. She, her, I opened my shop in 2004. I like to joke that furries put me through college, but it's not that far off. They've been very generous and very supportive since I started doing freelance work. But we're here to talk about my other income stream, which is being creative support. So when we talk about online presence, there's a lot of things that I think people right off the bat already start doing as creatives when they interface with the internet. Particularly, they have they have whatever content they make, whether that's illustration, comics, podcasts, etc., etc. The main part of what they put out there that their audience is consuming. They also usually there usually isn't like a concerted effort, but a lot of people start doing their brand development and they start making their business and their online presence. But some of the things that they don't always think about that I usually come in and support people as their businesses start to grow, include making supplemental content. I'll help them with campaign management, whether that's through something like Patreon or Kickstarter or Subscribestar. They also often there's a space that they need someone to come in and work with direct fan interactions. When you're really small and you're getting, one or two fan interactions, such as like fan comments every day, it's usually not a big deal. But once as people start to grow and have a few thousand fans, so for some clients, I'm reading maybe 50 to 100 comments in a day. I'm the person that reads the comments. And part of that helps that I'm not the creator, like those comments aren't targeted to me, and I can sift them and either escalate ones that I think the creators would like to see or escalate them in a negative way. Maybe things that should get addressed either through moderation or in really extreme cases get escalated to police or other services to deal with fans that sometimes are a little much. And then finally, a lot of creatives, as they start making their businesses online, they're looking for stability, a way to make the money, put the food on the table, and keep doing what they're doing in a sustainable way. Um, so just to be completely transparent, all the examples that I have are either from past clients that I've scrubbed all of their personal information or the back end that identifies them off of it, or it's from my business. So the jobs that no one talks about. So I get hired on as a freelancer. It's usually by the hour. Businesses are either looking for a manager or a ghostwriter. Sometimes they need to develop their persona of their business. So often we start off online as your persona is you with a little bit of editing going on. But as you become a larger brand, as you become a business, whether that's putting you out there personally or you as a character out there, making a concerted effort to kind of outline what that is can help firm up both your interaction with fans and have people like me that come into the background puppeting that brand where they don't even realize I'm there. Um, One of the other things that people don't really think about is sometimes they need freelancers to come in other parts of the business, either temporarily or on a longer term basis. In my circles as a freelancer, a lot of my clients need, let's say, graphic design work. I am not a graphic designer, didn't go to school for it. Serif fonts, non-serif fonts really doesn't really do it for me. But I can recommend graphic designers that I've worked with before that I know are going to deliver on time and they're going to treat my clients well. So part of my little freelancing business is being an interface to help them grow and get resources in ways like you don't necessarily always know whether a freelancer is going to fit really well or give you the work that you need, but I can help be that interface there. Um, so people that are online, it's great if you can make all of your money through one income stream. Me personally, over the last 20 years, I haven't been able to do that. And so we look at diversification of income streams. If you make illustrations, can you make physical merchandise or digital packages or something like Patreon? There's a bunch of different ways to make money. And opening up the business to have multiple income streams often not only makes it so you can make more money, but it often pads in places where things get kind of dicey, especially like with physical goods. Um, there is a lot more reward that you can get to it, but there's also risk and overhead that comes with are you storing it? Are you storing it at your house? Are you storing it somewhere that you've rented? It's just a matter of spreading all of your eggs into multiple baskets. That way your business can stay afloat and ride out some of the rough areas. One of the things that I have never had a client hire me, the client has never hired me, and I don't see them doing this before I come in, is a lot of them don't archive or preserve the things that they're making. So people that will make blogs or they'll make like Patreon posts, they never archive them. And it hurts my soul. I'm sure all of us that like lived through the Tumblr purge can feel it. Sometimes those accounts die, they get deleted, you get banned or, ghosted. Like something can happen, and if you don't have an archive, it is absolutely tragic. If you don't have your content backed up, like your blog posts, your fan list, something, this is your message from your friendly neighborhood freelancer. Please go archive your things, back them up. You will be thankful later, trust me. And then the final part is converting regular content into an evergreen library. And we'll get more in depth on what all that means a bit later. So the long story short, communicate your business. You got to write it down. There's a lot of different reasons to write down what your business is, what you do, how you interact with fans, all of your accounts. Like having that all written down in text can help in a lot of different ways. It can make it easier for you, like if especially if you're posting on multiple forums, knowing that this content can get posted out to this place and this place and this place, and having a record of that can be really important. You have a more consistent presentation among all of the different ways that you interact with the public. Everything that's public facing can have a uniform look. If you approach someone and you want to partner or collaborate, or you approach a business or a business approaches you and they want to see like how your business runs, what kind of people that you have in contact with, what your demographics are, all of your data, having that all written down can make it a lot easier to grow your business and have those interactions with your peers. Future onboarding. My selfish request. Having this stuff written down makes it a lot easier to bring on freelancers like me, where I can pick up right where you left off and carry on your business the way you want it to. Um, Writing it down can also be important as your business evolves, you can see over time how it changes and how it it gives you like direction. It makes a better map that you can see where your business is and where your business wants to go, and making that trail, making that way from A to B can be a lot easier if you have it written down. And then finally, creators, we of the mortal coil and all of that good stuff, we will at some point pass away, whether that's when we are old and gray or otherwise. Your business and online presence often extends beyond that. And if you don't have a plan that's in writing and you don't talk to the people around you, whether that is family, whether that is partners, whether that is your employees, having it written down can be an important while you go through that transition, that your business goes through a transition in the way that you want it to, and whether that becomes archiving or deprecating or getting donated to museums or wherever it is you want your stuff to go at the end. Writing it down is important. Got to have a plan. Okay, branding. As I said before, I am not a graphic designer. This is not graphic design advice. However, when you start making your online presence, and especially if you're a solo shop, you're the sole proprietor, you're the one person making your everything that goes out to the public, you have some tendencies. This illustration that has my mascot with the little bubble and my comic pages in the background, this is what I think is cool. But when I hand it over to a graphic designer or other freelancers, et cetera, having it written down, these are the fonts that I like, these are my brand colors, I like things that are rounded corners. It's everything your business wants to be, or everything. So you guys, like, I have my VTuber. This is how I interact with the public most often. Everything that I want about this, whether it's my graphics or my VTuber or my presence in any way, I have it written down. So if I have someone step in my place, or other people, like I partner with someone down the road, they can see these things and we can all look uniform together. Making choices can be hard, but just making a choice and going forward can be really helpful. Content categories. Okay, so when I approach creators, they are often always making primary content. Primary content is the main thing that you're selling. So if you're a podcast, it is your podcast. If you're an illustrator, it tends to be your illustrations, comics, etc., etc. So that is the main thing that you make, that you put out to the public. Secondary or supplemental content is all of the announcements, blog posts, polls, behind the scenes, journals, behind like all of that extra stuff that fans, oh, they eat it up, but it is not the main thing that you're selling. So there's some considerations between the two different categories. How often you do it, how much you're giving, the frequency, the logistics, all of that marketing. It all needs to be considered when you're making the mix of primary and secondary things that you're putting out. The second categorization of content that we talk about is timely versus evergreen. You guys probably all already know this because you're all internet people. But timely content is content that you put out that has to do that is mostly focused on the time right now when it goes out. So whether it's the holiday that's happening, I believe it's Golden Week, you put out something for Golden Week that is timely content that is related to right now, today, when you post it. As opposed to evergreen content, evergreen content is something that you can keep posting and reusing over and over again. The advantage of either converting timely content to evergreen or just building evergreen content to begin with is that you can shift some of that work burden where you're not like many creators. I think I felt this as a young creator. As I was making things, I was immediately posting them, and I was just constantly on that treadmill, like just about on the edge where I wasn't going to be able to keep up with. Oh, excuse me. I wasn't able to keep up with my schedule. Evergreen content can help shift some of the burden from that. So depending on your platforms, depending on whether it's algorithmic or non-algorithmic, how much content you need to put out will all be different business to business and following to following. But like my little Christmas sads, every year I roll out all of my Christmas content because I've made it evergreen that it can be put out at Christmas every year at the same time, and I don't have to, I can elect to make more Christmas content, or I can use things that I've used past years, and it lessens the work burden and the strain on me to do that right as it's happening. So, an example, one of the clients approached me. They were an established business and they had a small team, and they started a Patreon campaign and found out that they didn't have enough time to handle the campaign. So they did a podcast, and they really wanted to. Their biggest problem is that they were able to get fans into the Patreon and they weren't able to retain them. So we talked about how often that they were touching base with fans. How often is a fan interacting with your content? Best practices for Patreon, I believe they put out data. It's probably 5 years, 5 or 6 years old now, but you want to interact with fans twice a week and no more than 4 times a week. Part of that had to do with the way the way their website was structured. It would send out an email every time you made a post. If you sent out more than 4 things a week, people were getting 4 emails, and that usually had a negative effect on the subscribers. If you were not giving them enough content, like you were touching base with them once a week or less than once a week, people would start to think either you weren't giving them enough content or they weren't thinking about you often enough that when the re-up for their subscription was happening, they just weren't re-upping. They weren't resubscribing. So after discussing all of that, we aimed for, since they were already putting out a podcast that went out once a week, we wanted to up it so the fans were getting um, the fans were getting something from them through the subscription service at least twice a week. So I started making secondary content from them. I made microblogs and behind the scenes posts and all of these other community pieces that I orchestrated, so their team didn't have to, but it helped their retention numbers. uh, I mean, not to brag, but a little bit of brag. By an order of magnitude, they had a lot better retention of fans, and they had fans subscribing at higher levels because they were getting more regular updates with more content that their team didn't have to make. That was something they shifted on to me as a freelancer. Now we can talk about templates. Ooh, sexy. So templates are something that you can make. You probably put out certain kinds of posts, especially if you put out, say, comic pages every few weeks, or you put out announcements once a month about your themes, or you have a podcast and you're putting out your podcast periodically. All of these things are, um, they're all tasks that you do very regularly, and in the end, you're making something that is very similar every time. So I, in the bottom left-hand corner is my tea time announcement. So with my subscribers, I set aside an hour or two every month where I go on my Discord and I'm just there to talk with them, and I turn on my stream and I draw. But basically I'm setting aside this time and I need to announce to them both the people that are going to come because they're subscribers and people that are not in my subscription. I'm trying to tempt them with it as an advertisement. I have this tea time supporter exclusive with the date and time set up in layers. And every month I just need to change the date and time. And so it's, I don't know, under a minute making my new graphic that's going to go out every single month, opposed to making a graphic from scratch all the time. The one here on the right is from a client. They do an announcement blog post every month, and so I make the template for them so it's easier for me. But if at any point we are no longer interacting, either because I elect to leave or they bring on a team member that does it, they can pick up this template, and every single time their blog post is going to be the same. So all of the little asterisks that I put in had the specific way the creator was interacting with them. They would use a certain opening, they would use a certain sign off. It's just to make it so they can copy paste it. And the bright pink, anything that was bright pink, like I talked to the creators about this, you need to put something in there and you make it bright pink. That way it's very easy to see. So if you're going to make templates for yourself, I would really encourage something of this nature, that it's very easy to use and it makes it very obvious when the template is filled out, and always put a date on it. That way you can find all of your templates when they've been updated, when you need them, if you have multiple versions of them. It just makes it a lot easier. Next, we're going to talk about fans and mail. So I often come into subscription campaigns and there hasn't been a lot of organization. They've just started throwing things up. So things like I'll add keywords to hundreds of posts, or I'll make a pinned post. You guys, if you have a Patreon or you have a Subscribestar, you're probably already aware of this fact, but the way a fan interacts with it is that it's very much like a blog. It's just one post after another, which can work as a feed, but it's not necessarily showing them like a specific reward. So an example would be like, I made a coloring book. As soon as you become a subscriber on my Subscribestar, you can have access to the coloring book, but fans trying to find it can be very difficult. So I use the pin post on my subscription service, and I will have in the pin post access to all of the links that have access to all of the different rewards that you have right away. That way, it's the top of the page every time, and whenever a fan goes to look for those specific things, it's clearly visible. And because it's the pin, it's always at the top, and they don't have to go sifting through my hundreds and hundreds of blog posts that, every week there's blog posts trying to find specific rewards that they're looking for. This also, FAQs. If they're frequently asked questions, if you've answered the same question 2 or 3 times, there's chances are you're going to keep answering that question many, many more times. And there's a lot of people that probably have the same question, but they're not asking it. So having a clearly visible FAQ, newsletters or a roundup message at the end of each month is another way that helps with subscriber retention, because as blog posts go out, as emails go out on subscription services, people often will glaze over them, or they just won't see it. And so a roundup blog at the end of the month, I personally make mine public because I use it for advertising, but it's also a roundup blog is a second chance for your viewers if they missed a comic update, or they missed an illustration, or they missed some other reward that you put out. That's a list of all the things that they got that month, and they can go see, and like, not only do they see the value as the list, but they can go see things that they've missed. Check in with declined supporters. So especially with places like Patreon, Subscribestar, any of these other subscription services, people don't always realize when their subscriptions have run out or their credit card has become uh, expired. That's the word I was looking for. Yes, if your credit card has expired and you're no longer subscribed, the best thing you can do is you can reach out to them within the first 30 days and be like, hey, I understand if you no longer want to be part of my subscription, times are tough. I 100% get it. But if you didn't mean to unsubscribe or you got a decline, here is an option through either Patreon support or some other support. You can go fix whatever the problem is and you can resubscribe to me. And it also shows subscribers that you are aware that they are there, like they are visible. Both of these things are really important. You want them to stay subscribed as long as they want to, keep subscribing, but you also want them to be seen because that's usually a big part of people that subscribe, especially to services that where they want to have a more intimate interaction with the creator. Them being seen can make a big difference on whether or not they continue supporting. Then I hope you guys all have the do not interact list. When I first signed on with a creator, we had the conversation around you have thousands of supporters. Do you have anyone where there have been parasocial interactions or anything untoward where you don't want to? Because by interacting with them, you are encouraging that behavior. And the creator was very they thought it was very funny. They said, "Oh no, our following isn't like that. We've never had any sort of parasocial interaction before." And I thought that was very strange when you had thousands and thousands of supporters. Usually, once you get, above 5,000 subscribers, that sort of thing, you start to see that kind of interaction. It's just a numbers game. And we talked for a while and they started talking about, "Oh, we had this one odd fan. They found our house somehow and they left a bottle of wine in our mailbox." And it was like, "Oh, that is a parasocial interaction. They should be both flagged through the service. Like me as a freelancer organizing it, I need to know who those people are and what's going on. But also having someone come to your house might be something you want to talk to your local police or sheriff about just in case. It's not a good thing to be happening. But having a list of those sort of things not only maintains a history of these events, it can also help when you're talking to other people in your business, like making me aware that this is happening is important as much as the creator being aware of this is happening. It just helps with the communication. So maintaining that kind of list can be really important. Okay, so the consultants and hired help. So my advice is always if people feel like they need help, they should look for help. And I know a lot of us, when we start our businesses on our own, it kind of can feel like a failure state that you're not able to do it on your own. But especially if your business is growing, um, even a lot of businesses that look like single creators are teams. And I was pretty naive about that to begin with. I thought a lot of these independent creators were just single people that were really, really good at doing their business. But a lot of them, as they start to grow, they often hire freelancers like me, or they'll bring on partners or teammates to like make it all go because there is definitely a point where one person, like, there's just not enough hours in the day to do everything on your own. So there's a bunch of different kinds of help you can get. The first one I want to talk about is consulting. Sometimes it's paid, sometimes it's not. I have been hired to come into businesses and talk with them either for a few hours or an afternoon or over the course of a week, and then we'll work out a plan to try and address some of these problems that they're having. Another place you can always look that people don't always think about with consulting, the Cartoonist Co-op is a great place to go talk to a bunch of people that are in industry and are real smart and know what they're doing. Sometimes just reaching out to your peers, you don't always know, like, you don't know what you don't know, and talking to people can be a really good way to give you information and make a plan on how you can either change your business or add to your business in a way that makes it easier on you to manage. The second kind of help is freelancing. So freelancing, I'll come in on a set number of hours. Like some clients, I'll sell them like 8 hours every week into infinity, basically. And so for that many hours a week, I will come in and help them and do whatever it is they need to do to get their business going on their feet and in the right direction. Some smaller businesses will just need me for a few hours to write them a bunch of canned messages or templates or just make updated graphics packages for them just to make them and hand them over. And like, it's a set box. And a lot of times the reason they'll do that is for budget concerns. So they'll have a set budget and a set amount of work that they need to do, and we'll negotiate on what I'm able to do in that time period. But they know that at the end of the day, they're paying me this much and they're getting that out of it. Uh, we've already talked about employees, team members, or partners. That is not this talk. It's a whole nother can of worms and a lot of paperwork, people. But that would be the next step after freelancers would be hiring on someone full time as part of your business. So there's a lot of reasons to get help. Sometimes you just need a plan, or you need research, or there's skills that you don't have, or you don't have enough time, or you're facing burnout. There's a ton of reasons to need help. You just want to be sure that you're very clear at the beginning of it, the resources, whether that's time or money or et cetera, that you have to go to fix these problems. You want to know how much of all of those resources you want to spend as a budget, and you want to get everything in writing. So if you're having someone come in, especially if I come in and I'm either interfacing with the back end of their social media accounts or their campaign accounts, like it is very important that both for you to be safe and for the freelancer to know what they need to do, that it is in writing what is expected and the timeline and the payment schedule. Okay. I do a lot of ghostwriting. So ghostwriting is often like kind of has a bad rap, especially when people talk about novels, that there's a ghostwriter that's come in and done all the work and then someone takes the credit for it. I'm very much in the camp of, as a freelancer, someone has, especially as creatives, you have a business and you have an interaction with fans, and you just need someone to come help with the like sheer number of messages you need to read, the sheer number of emails you need to write, the sheer like blog posts that need to happen. And I'm very happy as a freelancer to step in and like nobody ever knows I was there. I'll make a document where I'll read like past fan messages that people have written to the creator and the creator's response, and I'll make notes on things like the creator really likes to use these words. They use these punctuation. They use this sort of language, et cetera, et cetera. And using that kind of guide, the idea is that I can step in and nobody ever knows I was there. You can't tell that you were not directly interacting with the creator, ideally at all. I'm just come in, I am the creator, but more. Um, when I answer fan messages a lot of times, like throughout the week, I can have the answer, like especially once we've established like information, if the creator writes down a lot of their business and their events and their calendar, when I have access to all of that, most of the time fans are writing in and I can answer more than 90% of what they're putting in. But if I ever get messages where I can't answer them or it's specific information that I wouldn't know, I'll send an email digest at the end of every week of like the Patreon campaigns that I'm managing, and I'll be like, hey, here's the week of this Patreon. I answered this many messages. I couldn't answer these messages. And the creator then only, like, the creator only needs to go on Patreon to post their primary content and answer the little digest. So it's basically, I've cut down their Patreon management from 7 days a week to a few hours once a week. And that's part of my bag as a freelancer. Um, Sometimes I'll assist on campaign planning. There's a lot of different features that you can do to have like subscription drives or limited time events or limited merch. All of those things need to be planned out through the business, and just writing it down and putting out the calendar like well before the event happening, opposed to trying to do it on the fly, can be really helpful. I think we've talked about this a bit, but like archiving and having a searchable place for your content, especially if your content by nature is not searchable. Like you have a bunch of illustrations or you have a bunch of comic pages. If you don't have either like a spreadsheet or a text database where you can search, like looking for like this character name, making that kind of database can be time consuming from the beginning, but if you do it a little bit over time, it can be really helpful at the end to have this huge place where it's like, oh, I wonder, since it's May, it's Mermaid, I wonder where all those mermaid illustrations are that I made. And I can go to my little spreadsheet and go mermaid, and I can see all the different file names and all the different dates that I made it. So I can go pull all of those images and post them up on my Blue Sky as evergreen content, because Mermaid happens every year. We know all of these events that happen every year, and being able to pull those things, we're just making tools where you're spending less time doing things that aren't sexy, or doing unsexy things that make more time for sexy things, if that makes sense. And your do not interact this, very important. Okay, so I use creative support too. I've made a webcomic. It's turning 8 years old in July, and I found that just making a webcomic that posts twice a week, every week, forever is a lot. So I was trying to figure out a way where I could take a break but my following, especially those that subscribe to my webcomic, would still get content and I wouldn't see a big drop off during my hiatus or during my break. So what I ended up putting together is every year during the month of July, which is the comic's birthday, I'll go out into the community. Excuse me. I'll go out into the community and I'll search up other artists, either illustrators or animators or other comic creators, and I will go pay them. It's a percent of what the comic makes every year, and I'll be like, okay, you go make content that'll fit in this hole, like so there's like 8 periods during the month that I would normally have a comic page go out, but I need something else so I can take the whole month off because I need to recharge and making comics is hard. You guys know that. So I can, over the course of the year, make a bunch of primary content, which is content coming from me, new comic pages or pinups or et cetera, that I can make in advance. And then I'll supplement that content block by going to other creators. And because I know that there's a certain percentage of what the comic makes throughout the year, I start budgeting for it. And it's something I would definitely recommend. It helps me reach out into the community and like um, make friendships or make contacts or make business acquaintances out of a bunch of people in the community, as well as taking a month off every year of making my comic, I think really improves the quality of my work because I can go spend the month recharging. Like it's just something that needs to happen. Like I need to have a break and having a month off really helps. So like not only am I free and not only am I creative support, I also use creative support. And that's my talk. So this is my email. I'm pretty friendly. If you guys want to come talk to me, you can also find me on Discord, or you can find my card. It has links to all the places that I am. I'm Firecat Rich everywhere. Thanks, guys, for listening. So I think we've still got maybe about 20 minutes that I can answer questions and talk with you guys. Yeah, if you guys have questions, let me know.
Well, I'll ask you a question that I had on my mind, which is, how do you how do you learn to ghostwrite?
How do you learn to ghostwrite?
Yeah,
Um, so initially I was approached. So there's a subscription company that reached out into the community and they were asking for people that already knew how to run campaigns. And they said, we have some high profile creators that want to use our service, but they don't have the time or the skills to do it. And they said, if anyone wants to do it, reach back out and show us what your campaign looks like. And we'll show that to these high profile creators and like they did the matchmaking initially. That's how I initially got into this business. And so they saw the writing that I was already doing and the way I was already interacting with my fans. And they said, "Yeah, we want that." And then they started paying me to do it. I
neat.
know that's not always very helpful. It's just writing like you probably already have your people or your fans or your following of some description that you're already writing for. And so ghostwriting is doing that, but looking at someone else's. So I looked at these other high profile creators and said, okay, they like using these words. They tend to interact with their fans in this way. I wrote down a bunch of their, I wrote down a bunch of jokes that I didn't understand and went to the creator and was like, I don't know what this is. And the creators were like, oh, these are inside jokes. And I literally have like a, a guide of being them. And so whenever I answer emails for them or I write a blog post, I'm always looking at like, okay, this is the place for an inside joke. Yeah, this one. I'm going to use this one. And I'll use the little pieces, the little Lego pieces that I have looking at them as a creator to make it convincing as a ghostwriter.
Neat. So Jesse in the chat has a couple questions. We'll start with the first one. How do you begin offering creative support, and what experience do you need to have in order to start doing that?
I mean, offering creative support. So creative support is this big umbrella of a bunch of different services that creators need, especially if they're very small, like sole proprietor businesses. You can get started on websites like Fiverr or Upwork or any of those little places that like people will put up jobs. Bless you. People will put up like there was a woman that had a brick and mortar business. I believe she was a yoga instructor of some kind, if I'm remembering correctly. Regardless, she wanted to start online classes and she didn't know how to sign up for Patreon.
Mhm.
And she was looking, she put up on Fiverr, she was like looking for someone to help set up a Patreon account and talk me through the first month's process. And I was like, me, I know how to do that. So I went and signed up for that. And we had this really good interaction. And when the month was done, her Patreon was set up and she was like ready to roll taking in subscribers. And like we waved and I wished her well. And yeah, so like I think there's creative support all around you. And when you start talking to other creators, you might hear that people need help. Like, I mean, I get word of mouth business now because I've been doing this for a little while, but I think there's a lot of different places that you can go looking and talking to your peers. Like your peers, your peers will know if you do a good job. And if they need help, paying someone their time is a great compliment, in my opinion. So if you offer support and they think you do a good job when they pay you, like that's where I would start.
Gotcha. Um, Let me see. Hang on. Next question. Um, how do you typically recommend people archive the things they make? Is there a particular format or a method you prefer? This is from Jesse again.
So there's a bunch of different ways you can archive it. I think over the years with a lot of clients, they rely really heavily on the cloud. And while the cloud is like it's a good option, it's a good piece of an archival plan. Also having, so I have this little, what do you even call it? It's like a little toaster that you put hard drives into. And so when I have a new client, I can put the little hard drive into it and I just save, I'll copy all of their blogs into a text document and save all of those documents and all of those images and all the graphics packages and I will just put it on the little hard drive as well as putting it on the cloud for them to access. It's just a matter of having multiple backups that are accessible to you. And I think so part of the talk is like these are all things that I've learned over the years as creative support. But also like every one of my clients is different and what's going to work for them will depend really heavily on how they want to interact with the internet, how they want to archive their things. Like all businesses are snowflakes, for better or worse. There's things that will work for all of them. But I think picking and choosing of all of these skills and tools, like finding your way is like which pieces of that work for you and which ones are you going to be able to keep up with? Because if I say, we're going to archive things on Dropbox and nobody puts things on Dropbox, like it's it's not helpful. So finding things that work for you that you can keep up with, that you are going to update regularly is the best option, in my opinion. My answer, non-answer.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. We have, I think Jesse had one more question, which is how do you determine rates to charge to your clients, um, for their needs?
Sure. So there's a couple of different factors when I approach clients. So my ongoing clients, like full transparency, is that I probably make between 50 and 80 USD per hour for long-term clients. They usually need me between, I would say, 5 to 20 hours a week, depending on the client. And so a lot of my business right now is how many hours do I want to sell per week, and then which clients I like to work with. Um, I would be very, very hesitant to offer rates that are significantly lower than that, only because part of what you're signing up for as a creative support is that hmm, it's kind of like being a personal assistant. You're not just doing a lot of that work, you're also being an interface with the creator, and I wouldn't undersell the emotional labor that you have to do and the professional labor that you have to do that's attached to that.
Mhm. Makes sense. Um, let's see. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Give people some time to share things in the chat.
Yeah, and I'm on Discord very regularly if you guys at any point want to come talk to me. Like, I am fully willing to chat a bit about business. I think one of the best things that has happened for my business is that when I go talk to people, if I talk to them for an hour and I haven't convinced you I'm worth the money to hire, I've done very well for myself just talking to people about their problems and how I can fix them. I find that's just very good business practice. And so it's not they don't have to put the money up front, but when they say that they need certain things fixed, I can take those things off their plate and that's how I make money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jesse says, uh, what are your favorite kinds of services to provide?
Um, I think one of the things that's kind of a tangential service that ends up happening is so with some of my larger clients, I do that email once a week where I'll send them the digest of questions that I can't answer, but I'll also be like, "Oh, have you heard about Blue Sky? I know that you really like the interactions that you have on these other social medias, but it's not algorithmic, and we'll have a dialogue about these different places online and these different ways that their business can interact." Um, that just becomes it's talking shop in a very intimate way. Like I see the inside of their businesses, and when I think that there's something that can be beneficial for them, um, I don't know, I get a lot of joy out of that. I'm here to solve problems. I think that's the biggest thing that I sell as a freelancer, and I feel really good when I solve problems I didn't even know that they had.
Awesome. Well, Nero has a question. He
Mhm.
says, in regards to DNI / parasocial situations, what are the kinds of limits you usually see? I've been trying to figure out how to straddle the line between engagement and accidentally encouraging parasociality.
Um, yeah, that's a hard one. So part of me developing do not interact lists sometimes have to do with the creators that I'm working for. There is a creator that has, oh, now I'm trying to think of how to say this without being mean. Their relationship with their fans is more aggressive and full of expletives and borderline derogatory commentary than the fan base that I developed for my own work. And so talking with them and what they're comfortable with was really important in deciding how those fans, like what was okay within your bubble. And I think it's really important that each creator looks really hard um, at the things that make them uncomfortable because you, as the leader of your following, of your creative sphere, of how you interact with the internet, is decided very pointedly on how you want it to be. And if someone is not, if they are not interacting either with you as a creator or with your other following in a way that you approve of, being vocal about that is important. And if it comes down to blocking them or ejecting them or muting them or silencing them, I would really encourage that. Because I think sometimes people feel that if they're being paid money, they are much more tolerant of certain kinds of behavior that are
Mhm.
unacceptable and unsafe.
Gotcha.
I just think it's important creators take a really hard look at what they want out of the interactions and that it's very clear the sort of things that you offer. Like one of the things that I run into a lot is because I am a female identifying person that works in the adult entertainment illustration, there's a lot of times where people try to cross that line between my art is titillating or sexual, and that is fine. Like I expect that because of the kind of content that I make. But then they will approach me in an effort to try and interact with me personally on a sexual level, and that is not a service that I offer. And
Gotcha.
so as I've matured as a creator, I've had to make that line very clear.
That makes sense. Um, Jesse asks, do you ever have situations where you need to work with a client on projects with non-disclosure agreements? If so, how do you work around that?
Yeah, so a lot of times when I'm working, especially in subscription areas, I'm working with a lot of content that is not out and is not visible. The relationship that I usually develop with them, and it is in all of my contracts that once things are public, I can talk about them. But so like on my LinkedIn, you can see some of the people that I have worked for in the past, but you may not see clients that I am currently working for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Um, so what it comes down to is that there's a lot of trust between my clients and myself that the expectation is their business while I am working for them is my business. And if they want those things to be secret until they're released, I want that as well. Like part of me being a freelancer and coming in with that level of trust is that it's very important for me that I take care of their business in a way that I would take care of my business, if that makes sense.
Nope.
And
Um,
through word of mouth, I have that reputation, at least. Clients approach me because of that.
gotcha.
So that's important to me.
Yeah. Jesse has a follow-up question to that,
Hmm.
which is they're curious about how you draw up your contracts with your clients.
It'll depend. So some of the very large clients that I have, they will have a legal team that will drop a client and then I will go um, get legal advice on my end before signing anything. So they will be approaching me with a contract. And I think it's really important that sometimes I think freelancers get the wrong idea when there's a lawyer involved. If they're not your lawyer, they're not looking out for you. So if
Gotcha.
they have a lawyer, you should seek advice from someone that you are paying to have your best interest. I do have like for smaller clients, like if we're doing like 1 or 2 hours or something, I will come at them with a small contract that I have developed over the years that is it's usually a very small agreement of this is what you expect me to do, this is the payment schedule. Like it's very bare bones, but it makes it very clear what their expectation is, what my expectation is, and when and how I'm going to be paid.
That makes sense. Nero asks, are there any frequent traps you see your clients fall into um, with uh sorry, this was a follow-up question to the and uh DNI question. So are there any frequent traps you see your clients fall into with the DNI questions, like being too nice to followers because people pay?
Yeah, it's a very common thing that I see in my work where people are very hesitant to block or voice that they're uncomfortable or that the way like sometimes we've had it where fans are fighting in the comments and the creator is very hesitant to jump in to either moderate or to stop it.
Mhm.
And what I've found is that what usually ends up happening is that when push comes to shove and things get quite nasty, when the creator comes in and deals with the offending parties, a lot of times the best followings are ones that will come together and be like, oh, you know, thanks for doing that. They were being terrible to us too. There's usually a lot of positive support, but it was something that didn't happen until the creator felt comfortable stepping in to put a stop to it. And me being a freelancer, for better or worse, I have a lot less skin in the game. So when I see people doing bad behavior, it's much easier for me to be like, just block them. Like, just get them out of here. Like, and I understand the connection that people have with their fans, but someone being your fan or someone paying you is not an excuse to be a terrible person or to say nasty things or to be disruptive in a way that makes people uncomfortable. That's never acceptable.
Mhm. Um, all right. We have about 5 minutes left in the scheduled time slot for the session, but if questions go over, they go over. Um, do we have any additional questions for the chat? Um, oh, Nira says if people want to hire you, where do they contact you?
Oh, you can either contact me through my email or Discord, or I can put my card. I'm I'm Firecat Rich everywhere, so I'm
Gotcha.
pretty easy to find. I'm firecatrich@gmail.com is my email, or I'm Firecat Rich on Discord. I'm pretty friendly. I'm willing to talk. Sometimes when I talk to people, I have had clients that have very small businesses that they don't This does that sound mean? I'm not sure that sounds mean. They don't actually need to hire me to fix their problems, but coming and talking for a bit has been really beneficial in my experience. Like I see people go off and they have a better time with their business or they have a better interaction with their fans just for coming to talk.
That makes
And like
sense.
it like paying me like 50 to 80 USD an hour is very expensive. Like I am under no illusion that a very small starting out business probably can't afford to hire me and they might not need to hire me. Now when they're big and
Gotcha.
famous and they have lots of money, I'm still here, baby.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think a lot of, especially artists, maybe come into the world, just come into the workforce making stuff on the internet because they like making art, right? And they don't necessarily have a strong handle on everything else. And it's not that it's out of their skill set, but it's not necessarily something that they've thought about.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we start making our internet presence in a very organic way. But then as we start like capitalism, oh boy. Once money starts getting involved and you start having more skin in the game in the sense that you're at a lot more risk depending on what you want to put out or don't want to put out. Um, it can be a space where making decisions that are much firmer, like you're making a decision that this is the kind of business that you want to see, that this is the kind of interaction you want to have. Like it can be really helpful to make a better structure and it can also help grow the business overall.
Makes sense. All right, I'm gonna post your uh link in the chat so that people can
Oh yeah.
click on it. Uh, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yep, that's me.
All right. Um, you have any final questions? Jesse says, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I feel like the funniest part of my work is sometimes I'll talk to people and they'll be fans of creators that I do work for, and we've already met.
Yeah,
I know you. Me as a ghost person, as someone that does a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. The ideal situation a lot of the times is that you don't know I'm there, but I'm very happy that you guys have those good feelings and those good interaction with those creators.
yeah, makes sense. Um, yeah, Jesse says that's so funny that you'll meet someone as clients and you'll have already met them.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I
All
think
right.
people as people they want to search out other people. They want to search out their people, and having those meaningful interactions is really important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, we're right at 7 o'clock. I guess we can do any final questions if anyone has them, or if everyone's feeling good, we can wrap this up. All right. Awesome. Looks like everyone's got their questions answered. So thank you so much, Rich, for sharing what you do and doing this presentation for us. This is the last presentation of the night. We have more workshops next weekend, so I strongly encourage you. We've got a ton of interesting stuff going on next weekend and for the rest of the month. So I encourage you all to check that out on the NIF website and in the Discord. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Rich, for presenting.
Yeah,
Hope
thanks
you
for
guys
having
have,
me. Thanks for moderating.
yeah. All right.